purpose of government, how the Constitution affects government, and the form of government the United States uses.
Well, simply, the government is defined as an authority that rules a country, an essential part of a nation. The government tends to provide stability, which makes many things possible. The government makes laws, provides services, and keeps order. The government solves disagreements between individuals, groups, and nations. Without the government, who would? The government sets up guidelines to help protect, bring order, and help us live peacefully together. The government has all roads. Without the government, travel would be more difficult on those dirt and rocky roads. The Constitution of the United States compromises the primary law of the U.S. federal government. It also describes the three chief branches of the federal government and their jurisdictions. In addition, it lays out the basic rights of citizens of the United States. The Constitution of the United States is the oldest federal constitution in existence and was framed by a convention of delegates from the 12 of the 13 original states in Philadelphia in May 1787. The United States government is an example of a republican democracy. A republican democracy is a republic which has a democratic form of government. Linked in file. Explain the structure and function of local, state, and national government.
The executive, legislative, and judicial branches represent the constitutional framework envisioned by the founding fathers of our nation's government. Together, they function to provide a system of lawmaking and enforcement based on checks and balances and separation of powers intended to ensure that no individual or body of government ever becomes too powerful. Every society needs laws. In the United States, the power to make laws is given to Congress, which represents the legislative branch of government. The laws of the United States are a complex tapestry weaving through history, sometimes vague, sometimes specific, and often confusing. It's up to the federal judicial system to sort through this web of legislation and decide what is constitutional and what is not. The U.S. Constitution establishes a government based on federalism, or the sharing of power between the national and state and local governments. Our power-sharing form of government is the opposite of centralized governments, such as those in England and France, under which national government maintains total power. While each of the 50 states has its own constitution, all provisions of state constitutions must comply with the U.S. Constitution. For example, a state constitution cannot deny accused criminals the right to a trial by jury, as assured by the U.S. Constitution's Sixth Amendment. Under the U.S. Constitution, both the national and state governments are granted certain exclusive powers and share other powers. Link in the sidebar. Explain how the United States stands with other countries in the world.
Britain and Canada have the United States back no matter what happens between them. Iraq and Afghanistan, on the other hand, are currently at war with the United States, so clearly they do not get along as well. Linked in file. Describe how you exercise the role and responsibility of civic life at all levels of local, state, and national government.
As citizens of Holly, we are charged city tax every time we make a purchase at JR's or Ryman's. As citizens of Colorado, we have to pay to drive on certain roads, like E-470. As citizens of the United States, after we turn 18, we are granted the ability to vote in the national election every 4 years. Link in the sidebar. As citizens of Holly, we are charged city tax every time we make a purchase at JR's or Ryman's. As citizens of Colorado, we have to pay to drive on certain roads, like E-47.
E-470!
As citizens of Holly, we are charged city tax every time we make a purchase at JR's or Ryman's. As citizens of Colorado, we have to pay to drive...
Britain and Canada Britain and Canada have the United States back, no matter what
You said
happens.
had.
Shoot!
It's have. As citizens of Holly, we are charged city tax every time we make a purchase at JR's or Ryman's. As citizens of Colorado, we have to pay The U.S. Constitution establishes a government based on federalism, or the sharing of power between the national and state and local governments. Our power-sharing form of those in England... Oh, shit. I'm an adult. While each of the 50 states has its own constitutions, all provisions of state constitutions must comply with the U.S. Constitution. For example, a state constitution cannot deny accused criminals the right to a trial by jury. As assured, stop. The executive, legislative, and judicial branches represent the constitutional framework envisioned by the founding fathers of our nation's government. Together, they function to provide a system of lawmaking and enforcement based on checks and balances and separation of powers intended to ensure that no individual will. The executive, legislative, and judicial branches represent the constitutional framework envisioned by the founding fathers of our country. I messed up again!